What's going on, everybody? Tello Talk Podcast back again with another episode. Today is episode 19, and we'll start it off with saying I apologize for the 2 week absence. Last week was our finals week in college, and I wanted to focus on that. I wanted to get this episode out last week, but I file got corrupted and then didn't have time to try and remake it. But then the week before that, it was dead week, so I was trying to get ready for finals. However, I'm back and planning to stay, and we will be pumping out a lot of content. I had Cameron on the episode with me last week, but he is not on this one, unfortunately. So it's just going to be me today, speaking on two things in the NFL. And Week 15 ended yesterday with the Packers beating the Rams and officially eliminating the Rams from the playoffs. But that's not what we're going to be here talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about two big things, the awards, and actually, we will be talking about the playoffs. There's a lot of things that have happened, a lot of shakeups, I would say, especially with teams like the Commanders, the Giants, the Lions, the Packers, the Saints, Panthers, any team in the NFC South, really, Patriots, whatnot. But getting into it, we'll start with the awards, however. If you don't remember, after week 9, I had Cameron, Michael, and I get on the podcast, and we did our midseason awards, where Cameron believed that Patrick Mahomes was MVP, and Michael and I said that Lamar Jackson were. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is not my pick anymore due to the fact that he's been hurt and a little bit lackluster of play. And I've got a new change. I've got a new change in there. We're gonna go with MVP, OPOY, DPOY, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, and then Coach of the Year. And you will see that on the Instagram 1 or 2 days from now, maybe today actually, on my picks compared to last week 9's picks. But enough lollygagging. We're gonna get into it. And we're going to start off with Comeback Player of the Year. Now, I said that it was Saquon as my Comeback Player of the Year back when I first did this. And I wouldn't go with that anymore. I'm going to go with Geno Smith. And the reason I'm going to go with Geno Smith for Comeback Player of the Year is he has proved a lot of people wrong. I mean, he was seen as one of the bigger busts. Not the biggest, but one of the bigger busts in the NFL. I mean, coming out of college with only one interception, a lot of people expected a lot out of him, and then he went and threw 21 interceptions his rookie year. But he's definitely turned his career around, especially this year. Went from being a career backup to a starter for a Seattle Seahawks team who is currently in the playoff race. And they did start pretty hot this season. They have kind of struggled recently, I believe, with a little bit of I think it's like 4 in the last 5 they've lost. So they were 7-3 at one point. I believe, yeah, they were 7-3 at one point, and then since they played Tampa, they've lost 4 of their last 5. With their only win becoming against the Los Angeles Rams, who just got eliminated. As I don't know if I've mentioned. I'm pretty sure, but his play has definitely increased. He went from throwing 21 interceptions to 8. His 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, the highest completion percentage in the league with 71.4 out of any eligible quarterback. And within the 14 games that he has started, I think Geno's looked very good. If they didn't really have this 4-game losing skid, I think that Geno could genuinely be looked at as a MVP candidate. Like not obviously not like a top 2 like Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, or Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, like those type of guys. But you could look at him and be like, hey, he's a top 6, top 7 MVP candidate. But they kind of had that losing streak, so that's where it kind of takes him out of the equation. However, I do really think he's doing a lot better. 105 passer rating. And then his QBR is a 63.9, which isn't the highest, but it's still pretty good. especially when guys like Aaron Rodgers who have a 41 QBR, as it was stated on Monday Night Football last night. But that's going to be my comeback player of the year is Geno Smith. And while we're at the lower-ish kind of awards, I'm going to make sure I talk about coach of the year, which I hate saying it, but I'm going to have my coach of the year as Nick Sirianni. I don't know why I hate saying it because I was really high on the Eagles and earlier. I just don't really have. I'm not the biggest Nick Sirianni guy. He's a great coach in my opinion, but I'm not the biggest. His mentality and the way he is, I don't really like it. But he's definitely contributed to the Eagles' success. I wouldn't say he's the sole reason why they've been successful because obviously a team is what they have to do. The team's the one that goes out on the field. There's 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense that goes out on that field and wins games for teams. But it also comes with coaching and what type of discipline you put in your players. And I can definitely tell that Nick Sirianni has a big impact on his locker room and on his team to the fact where he's going to help make it so he can contribute to the best of his ability to help this team succeed. And I mean, there's a reason why they are currently 13-1 and the number one seed in the number one seed currently, and most likely will be the number one seed after. I think the Cowboys will beat them next week, but after they beat the Saints in Week 17, unfortunately, unless they beat the Cowboys, then the Saints will beat them because then they will place backups. But that's enough about Coach of the Year. I'm gonna move on to Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm gonna have Sauce Gardner. I was really contemplating changing to Tariq Woolen after my last thing when he had his sixth interception against Tampa, despite it being thrown to Tom Brady when he got it. But Tariq Woolen, he's a great player. I just think Sauce Gardner is a top three, probably top one corner in the making as a rookie. People already see him as a top corner in the league. I mean, he's got the league most in passes defended with 16 and 2 interceptions and 58 combined tackles. 3 tackles for loss and a QB hit. Now Sauce Gardner's not a guy that you're going to blitz really that much, so I understand the three tackles for loss and the QB hits. But he just the way he plays coverage, you really can't see it in a basic stat how well he is at covering. But you can see that he's given up 4.7 yards at target. This year, he's been targeted 68 times, only given up 36 completions, which is almost a 50% completion rate, just a little bit higher than that, which is pretty good for a rookie corner, and especially a guy who 2 weeks in the season went and locked up Stephon Diggs. The first time they played the Bills played the Jets. Sauce Gardner didn't give up a single catch to Stephon Diggs in the second half, I believe. And then the game they just had 2 weeks ago, he played incredible defense, kind of really erased him from the game, but the Bills still managed to win it. As you can see, kind of like contributed to it a lot more the first time they played, but not as much the last time, although he did shut down an incredible player. And the reason I think he will be the Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I honestly would not be surprised if he's top 5, maybe top 6 in Defensive Player of the Year, because as a rookie, he's making such a big contribution to this Jets defense, and this Jets defense that is on the rise. So I think that Sauce Gardner will obviously be the Defensive Rookie of the Year just for that reason. But congrats to Tariq Woolen on a great season so far. I just think he'll come in second, right behind Sauce. As for Offensive Rookie of the Year, this one's hard, okay, because I'm a Saints fan, obviously. I want to say Chris Olave, and at the same time, there's another guy out there that I could see myself going with, and I could see winning it over him. I mean, their stats are very similar, in my opinion. If you look at it, their stats are just very similar. And that is the debate between Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Now, if you look at their stats, Olave has 4 less catches, 26 less yards, 1 less touchdown, and one less game played. Garrett Wilson is phenomenal. I will say that. He's been phenomenal this whole year, in my opinion. I've had him on my fantasy team. He's been a top 20 wide receiver for me. He's got 14.4 yards of reception. Olave's got 14.9, which is very, very similar. They're getting about the same amount of targets. Garrett Wilson is 110 and Olave has 102. And this is where it's really up to like, what do I think it's going to be? Yards per target. Olave wins that obviously because he has more yards per reception. He also has the same amount of yards on less targets. Their catch percentages, it's kind of similar. I'd say Olave probably gets the upper hand on that, but it's just I don't really know what to say on this one because if you look at their total touches, Garrett Wilson gets the ball on the ground and just not really the greatest on the ground, I would say. He's got 4 rushes for a total of 4 yards, but you don't really neglect a guy for that because that can all just be game plan reasoning. And I want to say Chris Olave, but I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett Wilson wins it because he obviously is what Vegas thinks is going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I will personally go with Chris Olave. Might be a little bias in there. Both guys came from Ohio State. But I think Chris Olave, you can argue the same thing about Garrett Wilson. He hasn't really played with a quarterback all year. I mean, Garrett Wilson's had Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, and Mike White. And Chris Olave's had Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. Now, if I'm gonna ask, would I rather have Andy Dalton or Zach Wilson? As much as Zach Wilson has struggled, I'd rather have Zach Wilson because he's a young quarterback who can try and learn. But obviously he showed us after that Patriots loss that he doesn't learn from his mistakes. But I'm gonna go with Olave here, and the reason I will go with Olave here is because I think Olave has the capabilities to have a much better season. I think if you put both these players on a team with the same quarterback, I think Olave would have a better season, and he would have just a better overall performance than Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's a stud, though. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's a superstar in the making. I just think Chris Olave has that top 5 potential, and so does Garrett Wilson, you could say. But I think Olave, the way he's been playing this year, under the circumstances, being thrown in as trying to be under the wing of Michael Thomas, then all of a sudden Michael Thomas gets hurt, and then you just have to be the number 1 receiver for the New Orleans Saints, who are in a pretty bad division and trying to win games so the Philadelphia Eagles don't get a top 5 pick in the draft. But that's just I gotta go with Chris Olave here. The fact that he has 940 yards on 63 receptions, 14.9 yards per reception, 3 touchdowns. I think that if that's how he starts his career, you're going to see a huge jump in his 2nd, 3rd, 4th years, and he's going to be a huge superstar, especially with the Saints looking towards quarterback now in drafts. And I'm hopeful for a guy like Caleb Williams to come on the team because I think Caleb Williams and Chris Olave would work incredibly. So hopefully 2024 we get the first pick in the draft. But that is it for Offensive Rookie of the Year. For the Player of the Years, we got the 3 big awards. We got DPOY, OPOY, and MVP left. And we're going to start off on my favorite side of the ball. Most people's not least favorite side of the ball, but this side is a lot better in my opinion. The Defensive Player of the Year award. Cameron, if he was on here today, would be arguing that this should be Nick Bosa. I understand. Nick Bosa is an absolute monster of a dude. He is a beast at the end and edge rush. And I believe he might lead the league in sacks now. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if Matthew Judon still leads it. Yes, okay. Nick Bosa has 15.5 sacks. But my guy is in 4th with 13, and that is going to be Micah Parsons. And the reason I pick Micah Parsons is he is having almost an identical year from last year. And last year as a rookie, he was 2nd in DPOY voting, right behind TJ Watt. And you know what TJ Watt did last year? He tied the sack record. So that's why he's got the same amount of sacks as last year. Micah Parsons does. He's got 2 fumble recoveries, the same amount of forced fumbles, a touchdown, and not as many tackles, but he's been lining up a lot more at edge rusher. And last year he kind of played that whole linebacker role, but he's still going around playing edge rusher, linebacker. You could put him in slot corner if you need him to. Like he made the All Pro team first team last year as a rookie, defensive rookie of the year as a rookie, made the Pro Bowl as a rookie, and DPOY second place as a rookie. I just don't think that he shouldn't win DPOY with these almost identical, if not a little bit better stats this year over a guy like Nick Bosa, who, yes, he's an amazing player. He's got 15 and a half sacks, but he's not putting up the overall numbers like Micah Parsons. I mean, Nick Bosa is an incredible rusher, but Micah Parsons is only 2.5 sacks below him, and Micah Parsons is doing things that linebackers do too, with the forced fumbles, pass, like 3 passes defended as a linebacker. There you go. Touchdowns, tackles. He leads in almost every category other than sacks against Nick Bosa. So I'm gonna have to go with Micah Parsons as my DPOY. Congratulations, Micah Parsons. You have won Tello Talks Defensive Player of the Year. Moving on to Offensive Player of the Year. Now, I think this one could be a little bit obvious. A lot of people may say maybe not, and go with a guy like Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts, I think, is more in the MVP conversation than he is for this, due to the fact that the MVP award is terrible and everybody looks at it and it's seen as a quarterback award, which it needs to be changed. Because a guy like this should be being looked at to be the MVP. And Offensive Player of the Year I'm going to have is no other than Justin Jefferson for the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm going to have Jay Jettas as my Offensive Player of the Year because of this. 111 receptions, 163 yards, 7 touchdowns. Receptions and yards lead the league. 14.6 yards a reception. He's got 115.9 yards per game. He genuinely has the capability, with 3 games left, to break Calvin Johnson's single season receiving yard record. Now, it won't be as legitimate because he's got 17 games to play. Other than Calvin Johnson, he got 16. But is it really that much to take away from Justin Jefferson? I mean, in the past 2 games, he's combined for 346 yards. I mean, that's incredible. If he's doing that in 2 games, he's got 3 games left. He's easily going to break this record. He's had 5 games under 100 yards, with one of them being the game against the Jets, and then the Dallas blowout, the Philly game, and then the Detroit game. But they didn't really need him that game. They ended up winning eventually. But he's playing incredible. 7 touchdowns is honestly something you see from him. He's not really always going to score touchdowns. He's more of the I'm going to get you a ton of yards. And I mean, hey, he's doing it because he's got himself at 16-23. And if you look at anybody in the league for receiving, he is starting to pull away a little bit. I mean, he's got two more receptions than Tyreek, and he's 100 yards ahead of Tyreek, who's in second place. They got the same amount of touchdowns. And then Diggs, too. Diggs is in third, and he's 300 yards away from Justin Jefferson. I mean, the guy that was traded for that pick in Justin Jefferson, that became Justin Jefferson, is 300 yards behind him. And I'm not trying to say there that the Bills lost that trade, but that trade was a win-win trade, but honestly more of a win for Minnesota because they got Justin Jefferson. And you can also argue the fact that Tyreek Hill's on a team with another 1,000-yard receiver. But I'm not going to take that away from Justin Jefferson. He is an incredible player. He's a generational talent. Justin Jefferson has solidified himself as the best wide receiver in the NFL this year. And it's no longer Devontae or no longer Tyreek Hill. You can't really debate Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams. You just kind of have to say it's Justin Jefferson from what he's doing. And I mean, you give Justin Jefferson a guy like Patty Mahomes or even Jalen Hurts, like with Travis Kelce and AJ Brown, they're always top eight. Kelsey's almost always top five. If you gave Justin Jefferson to Mahomes, Mahomes would be a cheat code. Justin Jefferson would be having 2,000 yards a season. So I'm gonna have to go with Justin Jefferson for my Offensive Player of the Year. Congratulations, Justin Jefferson. You are Tello Talks Offensive Player of the Year. Moving on to the big award. The biggest award of them all, the MVP award, aka the best quarterback award. As we have not seen a non-quarterback win it since Adrian Peterson, which was a while ago. I think 2012. I'm not gonna think about that. But this guy's team lost their number one receiver, and everyone thought they were gonna be bad, forgetting that they had the best tight end in the league, and obviously the best quarterback in the league. Patrick Mahomes, the second, will be your MVP this year. And I honestly don't think it's debatable. A lot of people will try and come at me and say, oh, it's Jalen Hurts. No, Patrick Mahomes is easily your 2022 MVP, or 23, possibly. I think it would be, because it's next year, technically. But Mahomes is incredible. He this year leads the league in yards and touchdowns. He's got 11 interceptions, which is kind of a little big of a number. He's having over 321 yards a game. The highest QBR was 79.8 in the league. And he just defies the odds. He defies everything. He defies the laws of physics, the laws of gravity. Just everything. He's just a superhuman. Mahomes, as in the Week 9 podcast, Cameron pointed out, and I agree with it. I'll bring it up. He throws without looking. Throws with his eyes closed. He can throw when he's sideways. He could throw between his legs. He could turn around, hit a little dance, and then throw it with his left hand and right in the pocket. I mean, the fact that he's working so well and he's doing so incredibly well with all of his weapons that he has, especially losing Tyreek Hill, and I'm just in awe whenever I watch him. And another thing that I could talk about with him is he's got to give props to his front office as well, because they went out and got Valdez-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster. They kept Mecole Hardman, and Travis Kelce. They ended up getting Kadarius Toney, which really didn't work out for him. He got hurt after 1 week. And then the backfield of Pacheco, McKinnon, and then Edwards-Hilaire's kind of fallen off the cliff. But Mahomes is by far the best player in football right now. The fact that he leads the league in passing yards and touchdowns just kind of solidifies it, and they're in second in the AFC. Although Jalen Hurts is an incredible player, I don't see him beating Mahomes out for this award. Despite the fact that his team is doing better, Mahomes is personally and player-wise playing better. So I'm going to give Mahomes the MVP award. Congratulations, Mahomes. You are Tello Talks MVP. That's it for the award section of this. We're going to go on to the playoff section of this. Week 16 is coming around the corner. Each team's got 3 games left, with three things happening. Three things happening for a lot of teams. 3 different a lot of more than 3 situations, but we're actually seeing the playoff races getting really close. Not only for divisions, but also for playoff spots. As there has only been 4 teams that have clinched the division. And that is kind of interesting to see. We got the NFC South, which is an absolute dumpster fire this year. But the Buccaneers in first at 6-8 have a big chance of winning it, despite maybe not, because if the Saints win out, Bucs lose 2, Saints get it. Carolina wins out, and the Bucs lose 1, they get it. Like, this division, Atlanta's they're out. I just have a very strong feeling Atlanta's not making it. The Colts aren't making it. The Steelers aren't making it. Browns aren't making it. Raiders aren't making it. So you look at it, there's legitimately 10, 11 teams in each conference that have a chance at the playoff. And there's only 7 spots per conference. And we're 3 weeks away from the playoffs. So we're going to have to see how this goes for teams. And that's where I'm going to get into this today. And we've got 6 teams with clinched playoff spots. We've got the Bills and Chiefs, who are currently the 1 and 2 seeds in the playoffs for the AFC. The Eagles, Vikings, Niners, and Cowboys, who are currently 1, 2, 3, and 5. Now, the Cowboys, despite losing in overtime to the Jaguars last week, are still clinched the playoffs, have still clinched because the Giants beat the Commanders, and the Giants are currently now 8-5-1 in the 6th spot, and the Commanders are 7-6-1. Holding on to that 7th spot. Now, last week when I did this, I thought the Commanders would beat the Giants. However, I was wrong. I'll admit it. I thought the Giants would finish season 8-9. Now, it's not possible, as they do have a tie. I do think they are very possible. It's very possible for them to go 8-1, but I don't know if it will happen because they play the Colts. And if we're gonna talk about that in the hunt team, playoffs, there's teams like the Seahawks, Lions, heck, you could even say the Packers that could make the playoffs. And in my opinion, if the Giants are at 8-5-1, they're in a much better spot than Washington. The Giants have to lose all 3 of their games to not make the playoffs. If they win one game, I think it's if they win one game in Seattle, Detroit, and Green Bay lose, which I don't know if I think no, that's not. Yeah, if those 3 teams lose, the Giants will get in. If they go to 9-5-1. So I'm actually going to keep the Giants in. I'll put them at 6. Now, which sounds really weird. Obviously, they won't win because they're playing the Niners. But the Giants will stay in. Commanders are going to be the one falling out, with the Lions going in at number 7. I think the Lions have a legitimate chance at 10-7. They play the Panthers next week, the Bears the week after that, and then the Packers to finish their season. And I think that the Lions have a chance to go 10-7 and make the playoffs. And then for the number 4 seed, which is the NFC South division winner, I would love to say the Saints, but honestly, it's starting to look like Panthers, even though they've just lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't want to say Bucks, but the Bucks have a very easy road. If the Buccaneers lose to Carolina and the Carolina Panthers win out, Carolina's in. The best safe bet is to go with the Bucks, and honestly, I can't really give you a definitive answer to this one. I'm gonna have to go with the Bucks, but anyway, any team that wins that division is going to get their just absolutely get ran by the Cowboys, because the Cowboys, even though they lost to the Jags they looked impressive coming into that comeback. The Cowboys didn't that much, but I think the Cowboys are being a little shaky, but they still will win that wild card game, and I don't think they will win that divisional round game, but they'll win the wild card game. And that's going to be my NFC, obviously, Eagles, Vikings, Niners in that order. Maybe Niners finding a way to jump the Vikings for the 2 seed. But just either way, they eventually will play each other in the divisional. And I'll move on to the AFC. And this one gets a little interesting. So we got the Patriots and Jets at 7-7 right outside of the playoff. And there is no teams under 500 in the playoffs right now. The worst team is 8-6 with the Miami Dolphins. Titans are 7-7, and here is something I want to talk about, but I will talk about that after my wild card prediction. The Ravens are at 9-5, will stay, I think, at 5 or 6. If Lamar comes back, they'll stay at 5. The Bengals at 10-4 need to beat the Ravens week 18. The Bengals need to finish strong. They play the Patriots, the Bills, and the Ravens. If they lose to the Bills, which probably might happen, but we never know. If they lose to the Bills, they need to win the other 2 games to win the division. Because the Ravens could win out and then top the Bengals for that. However, if the Bengals win out, they will jump the Bills, and if the Chiefs manage to lose one of those games, they will jump all the teams, and the Bengals will go up to 1. Do I have that as my prediction? No. I'm going to have the Bills at 1, the Chiefs at 2, the Bengals at 3. And then, obviously, the Titans could not get 4. Now, that's not what I want to talk about, is the Titans are at 4, 7-7. However, the Jags control their own destiny. The Jags need to win out to win the division. They play the Jets, which is a very winnable game. The Jets aren't looking too hot. They play the Texans, which is the worst team in the NFL. And then they play the Titans in Jacksonville, I believe. So the Jaguars control their own destiny. If they win out, they win the AFC South and they would be in the playoffs at 9-8. And my thing is I'm actually going to go on it and I'm going to say, hey, the Jaguars are going to win the AFC South. Now, if they lose on Thursday to the Jets, then then I might be wrong. The Titans would have to lose another game other than that. But the Titans I think they do play the Texans next week. But other than the Texans, they play obviously the Jags and the Cowboys. And we could see the Cowboys beating the Titans. Hypothetically, Titans lose to the Cowboys and then lose to the Jags. Jags could lose that game to the Jets, and then they're still in at 8-9, which we really don't want to see an 8-9. I'd rather see a 9-8 team win it, being the division leader. But I'm gonna have the Jags jumping up to 4, Titans out. Ravens are gonna stay at 5 if Lamar comes back and plays well. I'm gonna keep the Chargers at 6. I'm gonna keep the Dolphins at 7 as well. I'm gonna keep this conference very similar to what it is originally, but I'm just gonna change the Titans and the Jags. You know what? I'm gonna change the Chargers and the Ravens. I'm gonna put the Chargers at 5 and the Ravens at 6. The only reason I think that is because I think the Ravens will drop that game against the Bengals. I don't know if the Chargers will drop another game. The Ravens do play the Falcons, Steelers, and Bengals, and the Chargers play the Colts, Rams, and Broncos, which are 3 very winnable games. So I'm going to have the Chargers at 5 at 11-6, the Ravens at 11-6, and the Dolphins. The Dolphins. What do I think they are going to do? I don't know. I think they'll make it over the Patriots and Jets. They play the Packers, Patriots, Jets, and I think they will beat they will beat the Patriots and Jets. So I'm gonna have the Dolphins. No, I'll have them at 10-7. How about that? I'll have the Dolphins at 10-7. Chargers 11-6. Ravens 11-6, with the Chargers being at the 5. Titans at 9-8. Bengals at 12-5. Chiefs at 14-3, and Bills at 14-3. I know it sounds weird seeing 2 teams at 14-3, but it's possible. And then the Eagles 15-2. Vikings, I'm going to have at 13-4. Niners 13-4. Or Vikings 12-5. 13-4, 12-5. Cowboys will be 12-5, 11-6. Buccaneers will probably win that division at 8-9, 7-10. Giants will win the division, not win the division, be the 6th spot at around maybe 9-6-1. No, 10-6-1, 9-7-1, and then the Lions at 10-7. And that's going to be my playoffs for the NFL. That's my playoff picture. And with that, that's going to be all for today. I appreciate everyone who listened out throughout this entire thing. A little bit of a shorter one compared to a lot of my episodes recently have been over an hour. And I'm trying to cut down on those, make them a little smaller. But that's going to end it here. I'll probably do another one later this week to make up for my absences. And watch your football, keep up on your sports news, and if you ever got anything you want me to talk about, let me know on my Instagram at Tello Talks Sports. And that's going to be all for me today. I will see y'all in the next episode, and that's it for me. Peace.